Anybody else having a little deja vu? Because I feel like we have definitely been here before. That's right, for the third year in a row, I am here talking to you about the bulb mound. Now, the bulb mound is my personal spin on a traditional bulb lawn. And bulb lawns are nothing new. In fact, they're hundreds of years old. In the Netherlands, they made these all the time. In a nutshell, here's the idea. You plant small bulbs that are good naturalizers in an area and you let them take over a portion of the lawn. Or we can make it a portion of the garden, whatever portion you want it to be. So I call this the bulb mound because this is a mound. It is my septic mound, as a matter of fact. It is one of those sort of semi-unsightly things that sometimes you have to have on your property. And in my opinion, this is a way to, instead of hiding it, plant that thing and make it look beautiful, somehow turn this thing into a feature. And the idea is that these things are planted with bulbs that start blooming very early and go a little bit into spring. You let the foliage go yellow and then you cut them back and you just have your regular lawn at that point. And I am a huge fan of this concept. Now, there's all sorts of reasons to do this. This is really good food for the earliest of pollinators that are out there when there are very few other flowers out there. This is a really nice way to do something with your lawn other than have a lawn. But I'm going to say for me, the best part is that this is that early sign of hope. If you live in a place where the winters are long and gray and very cold, there is nothing like seeing a few flowers in late winter to very early spring. Now, a lot of the key to this is choosing the right bulbs. You want to think about smaller flowers for this. This is not the place for your big fancy Darwin tulips. So my preferred mix for this is generally something in the yellow, white, blue kind of color scheme that starts with a base of, for me, tiny little daffodils. Tete-a-tete is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. It's a classic tiny little daffodil, and it's a classic for a reason. And you can usually get these in like bulk bags because they're fabulous to plant in bulk. They don't get that big, they bloom early, which is key for me. And they don't have huge, wide, strappy foliage because we're going to get to the issue with foliage in a little bit here. Also, things like muscari, grape hyacinth are a perfect addition in there. They're super tough. Aranthus, which you might know as winter aconite, is one of my favorite bulbs in general, but favorite bulbs for this. Snowdrops are fabulous in this. I also love the little dwarf irises, which have the best color. They're just fabulous. I also add in a few botanical tulips, Tulipa turkistanica, I think it is. That's always you can always spot that one because it's the dark red one out of all the bulbs that are going in the mix. So you have a ton of options when it comes to choosing bulbs for this, but the things to look for are smaller growing, something that looks natural growing in a lawn. You don't want to put like a giant allium in the middle of this, probably. Smaller bulbs also generally have smaller foliage, and the reason foliage is important is because, of course, in order to have bulbs naturalize and come back, which is exactly what we're hoping for on this, you need to let that foliage stand until it yellows. Once those leaves start to yellow, that means it's sucked in all the energy it needs for the year, they're done, you can move on with your life. So the question is, why am I back here for a third year? So let me tell you a little bit about the bulb mound. The first year I did the bulb mound, I only kind of did maybe half of it to maybe 2/3 of it, kind of only at the top and a little bit down the sides. Spring came and it was the most amazing thing. It was still one of my favorite things I have ever done in my garden. I was just absolutely enthralled with it. I was out here all the time checking on it. I couldn't have been happier with how I went. 10 out of 10 for sure. So I decided, okay, that was a fabulous success. Now these bulbs are going to multiply. They're going to hopefully seed around. We're going to have more of them, but I want to speed that process up. So year 2, I went in and tried to replant more of the area. Hit the areas we hadn't hit, come down the sides a little bit more, generally fill this in to make that display even bigger. And then spring came and it was kind of a dud. If I'm rating it, I'm going to say 3 out of 10. And it's a bit of a mystery. What happened here? So not only did I feel like the bulbs from the year before did not perform that well, I felt like the new bulbs that I planted did not perform that well. Unfortunately, I don't really know what went wrong. One possibility is that things got too dry. Bulbs do need a little bit of moisture to get going, not too much because you're more likely to rot a bulb than you are to desiccate it from drying out. But perhaps that was it. We did have a very dry fall last year, basically when we went into winter with a drought. And I believe I did water in the bulbs, but I only did it once. I think I set up a sprinkler and I watered them once, and then that was it. Now, the year before, that's pretty much what I did too, but maybe that just wasn't enough water last year. Now, the first year I did this, I was very particular. I made sure to go through with fertilizer and deer repellent in all the holes before I covered them up. I did a little bit of that last year, but not nearly as carefully as I did last year. In fact, I don't think I put any repellent in the holes. I think I just kind of put it over the top when I was done. The other thing that happened last year is that I did not bring in any soil to fill in holes. The year before, I did. I actually came through and put in some topsoil to help fill those holes, and then we put grass seed on top of that. Second year, I was feeling very confident. Look at how easy this is, and I didn't take that extra step. And there isn't a lot of soil. By the time you use the auger to get in there and plant these bulbs, there's not a lot of soil to like kick back into the hole. So if I had to guess, that would be what it was. Because there was a couple of times when I walk out here and I'd look and there's just like a hole with like bulbs sitting in it there. Now there's a chance that it was a combination of factors, but if I had to guess and pick one of those, I would say it was the soil thing, that I just didn't backfill those holes properly. And so they were basically left out there to the elements and to all the critters who just helped themselves very easily. So last year was a disappointment, but is that stopping me? Heck no. Because that first year was so darn good. I am bound and determined to make this bulb mound work, and so I'm going for it again. But I am going to do things a little bit different this year, and it's going to start with some paint. So in the past, I have just gone in there willy-nilly with my auger and just started making holes everywhere and just filling them in. And what happened with that is that I forgot holes. I had too many bulbs left in one place and not enough. Not in others. I just completely forgot about some areas. There was not a lot of strategy to it. This year, I am going to divide this mound into, I don't know, probably 8 parts or 12 or 10 or something. I'll figure it out. But I'm going to divide this into sections with paint. And then I'm going to do each section individually. And my hope is that that makes it a little bit easier for me to make sure that each area has been properly planted rather than basically chucking things around. It's also going to allow me to take this project in chunks instead of doing the entire thing in one day, which is what we've done the past 2 years. And I will tell you, that is not a project that is for the faint of heart. So instead of doing it all in once, I'm going to break this into as many sections as I want to do at one time. Now, once again, the tool to have for this is an auger. I don't actually recommend even doing this with anything other than an auger because there is no other efficient way to actually plant this many bulbs that you need to spread out and put in holes than to use an auger. Now, if you're planting a bulb lawn, I want you to take a deep breath and just kind of relax about it because I don't want you to get super wrapped up in making sure bulbs are facing the right direction or that they're evenly spaced, because the whole point of this is that this is supposed to be natural looking, right? Also, there is no way you can plant thousands of bulbs like I'm going to and make sure each one is placed perfectly in the hole or that each one is at the perfect depth that it says on the back of the bag. That is not the kind of planting we're doing. The kind of planting we're doing is chuck a handful of them into a hole that is basically probably 3 or 4 inches deep. I usually aim for 2 or 3 per hole, and I try to make it a mix of them so that we're spread out. But I don't spend a lot of time picking through things. Sometimes there's a chunk of daffodils over here. That's fine. They'll figure themselves out. Don't get wrapped up in the details on this. Don't get wrapped up in the details on this. We're trying to save our sanity, not ruin it. That number might vary. Some holes might get 1 bulb. Some holes might get 4 bulbs. We're not worrying about it. It'll figure itself out. The next 2 steps I think we could think about as optional, but I'm not doing optional this year. I'm going all in. So I'm gonna put a little bit of fertilizer in every hole. This is just an organic bulb fertilizer. And then the next step is a granular animal deterrent. The directions for this one say put a tablespoon in every hole. If you think I'm measuring it, you would be wrong. We will aim to put some in every hole. All right, and then the last step is actually filling these holes properly. The step that I think is where I messed up last year. So there is some soil that has kicked out of each hole, but I'm actually just gonna go around, fill up most of the holes, and then we'll rake over the whole thing. Then we'll maybe throw down a little bit of grass seed, and then we'll be good. This is just a very inexpensive bag of topsoil. I think it's about $2 at the hardware store. Nothing fancy. So I don't think that in every case you're going to need to do this whole backfilling with extra topsoil thing. I think that might be specific to my situation, but be aware that filling the holes is clearly an important thing. So if you don't have enough soil, you are going to have to figure out some way to fill those holes. All right, so there is one section of Bulb Mound 3.0 all planted and ready to go. So I love this idea of sort of segmenting this project so I can just do one area at a time. I feel like I'm able to pay more attention to each area because literally I was losing track of what I had done and what I hadn't done in the past when I was just drilling all the holes willy-nilly. So I think it works really well. And honestly, you could still just drill all the holes, but I just think like to do each segment at one time makes what is a very big project into sort of bite-sized pieces. So if you are thinking about planting a bulb lawn or any other project that has anything to do with bulbs, head over to flowerbulb.eu, who has very graciously partnered with me on this video. They don't sell anything. All they want to do is inspire you to grow bulbs and teach you how to do it well. All right, thanks for watching. Everybody keep your fingers crossed that come spring, this is amazing. Have a great day in your garden, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.